Chapter 6. Brighton by the Sea was a city renowned for summer holidays and family vacations. Winter was another story. The train station was hollow and empty and cold. Lisa was relieved to see a heavy-set man in his 20s holding up a hand-lettered sign with her name on it. He wore a neatly pressed dark blue uniform and matching cap. "I'm Monty," he said. He took her small suitcase and led her to an elegant black sedan, driven to her English home by a chauffeur. If Mama could only see her now. They drove through the brown countryside until the sedan turned off the main road at a stone pillar. The sign read, Peacock Manor. At the end of a long driveway stood a massive country estate house, 3 stories tall, with turrets decorating the left and right corners. It looked every bit like a castle from her daydreams. Monty drove the sedan to the servants' entrance. At the back, the cook, 3 maids, and a butler came out to meet her. "Welcome to Peacock Manor," said a lady with a no-nonsense air about her. "I'm Gladys. This here is Lola, Betsy, and Carrie. And this fine man is Mr. Piedmont, our butler. You'll meet the rest of us later. Come in and take a hot bath and we'll get some tea." Gladys showed Lisa to her small but cozy room in the servants' wing and gave her a starched white uniform. When she was pronounced presentable, she was ushered into the study where her sponsor, Captain Richmond, and the butler were packing oil paints, easels, and half-finished canvases into cardboard boxes. The captain was a man in his 60s. "So there you are, missy. Good to have you here. Make sure Gladys treats you nicely." He winked good-naturedly at the handmaid. "Thank you," said Lisa. "My wife looks forward to meeting you. She's off gallivanting in Paris, but don't mind the mess. I'm giving guard, hoping for a war, but just in case, we had best be prepared." Lisa was so overwhelmed that she was grateful when Gladys handed her a feather duster and led her up the large staircase into the main hall. "I can't be bothered explaining everything to you, so just follow along and keep your eyes open." Lisa quickly fell into the routine of the castle. She had a keen eye for the dust that gathered in corners, and by the end of the first week Gladys seemed dully impressed. "You might just work out," the head maid announced in front of others at the servants' dinner table. "And coming from her tough hide, that's a huge compliment." Monty said with a laugh. He leaned over and planted a kiss on Gladys' cheek. It was a gesture that reminded Lisa suddenly of her father and mother. She was overwhelmed momentarily with memories. Tears sprang to her eyes, and she apologized and excused herself. That night, Lisa wrote another letter to her parents. She described the elegant furnishings and grand surroundings. She realized while writing how happy she was to be settled for after weeks of uncertainty, and vowed to be useful and cheerful at all times. She arose early and put on a crisp white uniform. By the time the sun came up, she was hard at work, scrubbing floors and fetching coal, and dusting endlessly. She worked with only one purpose, to make the money her parents needed to send Sonia. Lisa knew that Captain's wife had arrived from Paris when she heard the squeal of an infant echoing from the hallways. She was introduced to the 25-year-old lady of the house. Lisa was mesmerized by her elegance. "I want you to be my lady's maid." Lisa's mouth dropped. "My maid is pregnant and she's leaving. Tomorrow she'll teach you all you need to know." She waved 3 fingers quickly in a goodbye gesture, turning back to the cosmetic table. Every Friday, Lisa was paid her salary, and she stashed it proudly in a well-fingered envelope in the nightstand where she kept a copy of Claire de Lune. Lisa would accompany Gladys and Monty supplies. They would pile into an old and Monty in the cab and Lisa in the back. One Saturday, traffic came to a complete standstill. Lisa stuck her head out and around the cab of the truck. The road was filled with a long green convoy of British Army trucks and tanks, crawling like a centipede. She hadn't seen tanks since Hitler's army had moved into Vienna more than a year ago. "Are we at war?" she asked breathlessly. "Just getting ready in case, love," Gladys said. On special evenings, the staff cranked up the old Victrola. The tunes lingered in Lisa's head, and she wished she could try them out on a piano. Sometimes she would hum Claire de Lune and picture the moonlight glistening off the Danube. She closed her eyes tight enough she could picture mother and father with Sonia and Rosie walking along its banks. One day, Monty handed her a letter with a German stamp. She was overjoyed to see that the address of the letter was 13 Frankenzenbergenstrasse. The letter was short. Her mother said simply, "Make us proud of you. We miss you every day." Monty put his arm around her when the tears came. After dinner, the staff would gather around the wireless and listen to the BBC broadcast. The news from Europe was upsetting. It had been almost a year since Hitler had taken Austria. In 3 months since Lisa had been in England, she had heard nothing to ease her worries. Lisa was tying up the new office of the house guard, which had taken over the billiards room, when she heard loud voices coming from the captain's study next door. "I told you this is what it would come to," a man's voice shouted. "What were we supposed to do?" When the voices quieted, Lisa could hear the frightening voice that made her shiver with fear. The voice of Führer echoed through the manor house. "Ich von ich recken feared." She walked closer to the room where the men were gathered and stood in the hall, listening terrified by the voice of the man that she so hated. The captain was shouting, "Can you believe that madman has just marched into Czechoslovakia without a shot being fired?" He walked into the hall, waving his arm in disgust, and caught sight of Lisa. "Aha! Come here. We need you." He took her arm gently and led her into the room, where 5 uniformed men were scattered on chairs in front of the radio. "What is this maniac saying now?" he said. "Austrian ich nice umgekehrt." Came the bone-chilling voice of Hitler. Extermination, nothing is impossible, Lisa translated slowly, growing more upset with each word. An officer, seeing her distress, exclaimed, "Have a heart. Don't make the poor girl listen to this." "All right, dear. That's enough. Thank you," the captain said. "A young girl shouldn't hear it," Lisa asked herself. "I have lived it. I've seen it." She thought of Christendom and saw her father on the ground, humiliating an image she could not erase from her mind. Suddenly she was overwhelmed with a desire to be with others like her. Yes, Monty was friendly, Gladys meant well, and the lady was kind too. She had enough to eat and she was safe. It should be enough, she told herself, but it wasn't. It was hard to get back to the routine of her job, but Lisa dutifully laid out the mistress' outfit and matched the shoes to the purse with the skirt to the jacket. As always, the lady was very pleased. "A wonderful choice, Lisa." "Thank you, ma'am," Lisa said. Her heart had been heavy with to ask the most important question, and she'd been putting it off. "Something? Certainly. What is it?" "She's very sweet, and she would work in the kitchen. We very much need someone to so she can get on the kinder train, and if there's any..." The lady looked at her, interrupting. "How old is she?" 12. The lady frowned. "She'll be 13 in a week," Lisa added, exaggerating. "I'll take care of her on my own time. She'd be no trouble, I promise. She's very well behaved." The lady gave her a sad smile. "I wish I could, Lisa, but you've got nerve for asking. I like that, but unfortunately, we aren't able to take on another person. I'm sorry." The words fell heavily on Lisa, and she turned to go. "Lisa, how old are you?" "I'll be 15. "I wish I were 15 again." The woman's voice was distant, unhappy. "When I was 15, I thought the world was my oyster. I thought it was going to make something of my life." She looked directly into Lisa's eyes. "I'm sorry." Make something of yourself? The phrase ran through Lisa's mind as she ironed the jackets, pressed the skirts, and polished the shoes. Over and over came the voice of her mother, its gentle insistence invading her thoughts. Whom could she look to for guidance, if not her mother? That night she slept fitfully, tossing and turning. In the morning she was awakened by a rap at the door. "Are you coming or not, sleepyhead?" Gladys yelled. She dressed hurriedly, opened the door, and grabbed the envelope that held the money she had saved from her wages, stuffing it into her pocket. Once in town, Lisa found the second-hand shop where she had seen a bicycle in the window. She summoned all her courage and walked in. "I want to buy this bicycle," she said, trying as hard as she could to pronounce the W the way the English people did. She saw the curious expression of the shopkeeper and knew her accent was still dreadfully foreign. "So you must be that refugee we've heard about. Well, I told me we had one of you nearby. Are you looking for a bicycle?" "Yes, I have money." The man walked up to the bike that Lisa was pointing to and looked at the tag. £4, 2 shillings. Seems a bit pricey for what it is. How does £2 sound?" he asked with a wink. Lisa fished her envelope and handed a copy of her pound notes to the man. She fought back a steely guilt. This was the money for Sonia. but she'd make more money soon, she promised herself. Can you keep it here until I come to get it? Whenever you need it, it'll be here.